You've inherited over $3 million, right? We've already started building a duplex for us to live together. I've even included the kitchen of my dreams.
My Miles says in a tone that's almost dreamy, "We've already started building a duplex for us to live together. I've even included the kitchen of my dreams."
My husband announces, looking oddly pleased, "I've quit my job. I'm planning to start a business with the inheritance that Ashley has received."
I say, wait a minute, I've told you I haven't received any inheritance yet, right? You've, quit your job, and you're building a duplex. What's happening?
Don't lie, it's clear you've inherited. How about we take a trip before the house gets built? How about Hawaii?
I say, what on earth are these people thinking? They want to use the precious inheritance I received from my mother and spend it on whatever they please. Even though I was filled with rage, I didn't know what to do. The story goes back a few months ago. I'm Ashley, a 38-year-old high school teacher. Soon after we got married, our only daughter, Julie, was born. And since then, my days have been filled with work and child rearing. Today is the day I am visiting my hospitalized mother with my daughter.
Julie says, "Oh, Grandma, it's been a while."
Well, Julie, welcome.
Byzantine, my mother, lying in her bed, lovingly strokes Julie's hair. Her hand is noticeably thinner and her complexion looks poor. Next to my mother's bed stands a middle-aged man wearing glasses and a suit. As I nod towards him, he returns the nod and leaves the room.
I asked him, who's that man? Is this man?
My mother replies, "Just an acquaintance, don't worry about it." More importantly, Ashley, are you still doing well? And David, is he well?
My mother's eyes, a shade close to blue, sparkle softly as she smiles. She met my father, who ran an import-export business overseas and came to the U.S. as his bride. Caucasian, a child in a foreign country, must have been hard, but my mother and father worked together to bring me up. One of the reasons I am able to work as a teacher today is because my mother taught me many things since I was small. I am deeply grateful to my parents who raised me with love in a wealthy family. After my father passed away a few years ago, my mother, now alone, fell ill and was hospitalized. She transferred the business to a relative, and now she spends her remaining days quietly in the hospital. She transferred the business to a relative and now spends her remaining days in the hospital.
I'm fine, Mom. Is there anything you need?
Just having you and Julie come to see me is more than enough.
After having such a conversation and spending a good amount of time talking with my mother, Julie and I headed home. Julie talks to my mother about things that happened at school and the books she has recently read. She's at that tricky age of 10, but our relationship is good. Even if I take away my parental bias, I think she's a bright and honest child who is growing up well. We're home.
Oh, welcome back. How's my mother-in-law doing? David asks as he greets us. Mom is as usual. How about you? Your seminar, was it? Oh, I heard some good stuff. Looking forward to the next one. At that,
Recently, my husband has been attending seminars on quitting his job and starting a side business. He must want more money, but the company he works for, while not top tier, is not bad, and with my salary, we are doing just fine. I find it distasteful when he is so greedy for money, which I suppose he gets from his parents. Ever since we got married, I've been put off by his parents' excesses, stinginess, and their habit of begging for small amounts of money whenever we see them. So I've been keeping my distance. They've never given Julie any Christmas gifts. Fortunately, my in-laws live far away, so we don't have to interact much, and my husband does well with household chores, so I guess it's okay. As long as I have my mother, my husband, Julie, and our modest but ordinary life, I'm content. Then one day, I got a call from the hospital. My mother's condition had suddenly worsened, and she was in critical condition. That's when my family rushed to the hospital. My mother was barely breathing.
Bomb.
Grandma, no!
Ashley, I always wanted you to be happy. Cherish Julie more than anything. I love you.
In the end, those were my mother's last words. Asking to changed. My mother, who raised me with all her heart with my father, spent her remaining days quietly in the hospital after transferring the business to a rep. My mother, who adored Julie from the bottom of her heart, passed away, and her face in the coffin was peaceful. Julie was by my side, crying with me. A little while after my mother passed away, an envelope arrived at our house.
A offer?
Ashley was perplexed as she opened the envelope from an unfamiliar sender. Inside was a document stating, "I have been entrusted with your mother's will, which leaves all of her inheritance to you."
Ashley and her mother had never discussed the subject of inheritance before, so she was taken aback. However, since the letter had indeed arrived, she decided to visit the law firm on her own.
Oh, I'm the attorney at W.
The 6,000 man who appeared was the middle-aged gentleman with glasses who had been present when she had visited her mother in the hospital.
You were in my mother's hospital room before.
Ashley questioned the man with the familiar face.
Yes, we met in the hospital. Actually, from that time, I was entrusted by your mother.
Hearing Ed's kind voice, Ashley found herself on the verge of tears.
And then I was shocked beyond belief. What, 500 million?
Yes, Ashley. When your father passed away, you waived your right to the inheritance. It's like your mother could receive it all, right? When you add that inheritance to your mother's personal assets. Even after deducting taxes, this is the amount your mother has named you as sole heir. Is the sole heir.
My parents had indeed been wealthy, but I hadn't imagined that they had left such an inheritance.
Wydaje inconveniencias. I had never asked my parents for money after getting married and avoided the topic of inheritance as it seemed unlucky. Feeling dizzy, I realized this must be an expression of love from her mother. With that thought, I left the procedures to Ed.
Your mother cared about you more than anything. She instructed me to assist you if necessary. Please feel free to discuss anything with me.
As time passed, and it was around the time of her mother's 49th day memorial service. Her husband, David, began to frequently ask about her mother's inheritance. Actually, when they had married, her father was still running his business, so David was vaguely aware that they were wealthy. Each time she asked him to stop talking about it while she was still mourning, he would fall silent, only to suddenly bring up the matter of money after some time.
Or to my in-laws.
When they came to my mother's memorial service, my father-in-law said, "Ashley, if you are worried about the inheritance, we can help. Inheritance can be complicated. If you're troubled, feel free." The to discuss anything with us. Having never shown any inclination to assist them before, she could only give her in-laws a vague response as they put on a knowing facade. And then, about 3 months after her mother's death, David, who had been always quiet recently, finally lost his patience. David, who had been quiet recently, finally lost his patience.
Hey, have you received your mother-in-law's inheritance yet?
Owen badly swept over her.
Quickly, Ashley lied. The procedures are complicated, so not yet.
But it felt right to say that now.
Really, but it's like been 3 months since your mother passed away, right? No, haven't you done the procedures yet?
Yes, so what?
Well, never mind. I'm going to bed.
Some reason David headed for the bedroom in high spirits with a nagging unease in her chest. Ashley prepared for work the next day and then headed for bed.
The next day, as Ashley and Julie were cleaning up after dinner, the doorbell rang. Julie hurried to the door, and when Ashley poked her head out from the kitchen, she saw her in-laws, who had dropped by unexpectedly, and David returning from work.
As he gets out of father-in-law, why are my father-in-law and mother-in-law here?
It's not a big deal. Julie, you go to your room.
What's going on?
Never mind that. Ashley, we have something to celebrate today.
Then her father-in-law was in high spirits as he opened their fridge and took out a beer.
Celebration.
Isaki, you inherited more than 300 million yen. Didn't you? We've already started building a duplex house for us to live together. It even comes with a dreamlike modern kitchen.
What were you talking about?
Ashley, be happy. We decided to build a duplex house. We out half our savings. And the money that mom and dad have put aside for the down payment, the loan is under my name, but you can pay it. All at once with your inheritance, right? Give back to the two of them.
That's her term. In the large oath, it's a minute, what are you talking about? I told you I haven't received the inheritance yet, didn't I? And what does quitting your job in a duplex house mean? Don't lie. It's clear. It's inherited. How about we going on a trip before the house is built? How about Hawaii?
Amidst the escalating chaos, David and her mother-in-law were getting excited, agreeing with what Ed said. Then David said, laughing scornfully, "You're stingy, Ashley. We looked into it because you kept saying you haven't received the inheritance. You can't renounce an inheritance if you don't process it within 3 months."
And you can't renounce an inheritance if you don't process it within 3 months. Whether you lied or told the truth about not processing, you still have inherited, right? That is, considering the scale of my father-in-law's company, there must be more than 300 million, right? I'll be able to live comfortably thanks to them. Thank you, mother-in-law. Be sure to prepare the money for the duplex house as soon as possible, and my capital too.
That's true.
Ignoring the words of the three people, she took out a document. It was a divorce notice, already filled out.
Dave, I want a divorce.
Oh, where is Sam?
I can't go on anymore.
You're leaving us after receiving the inheritance. It changed because you got the money, you miser. That's my words.
Ever since I inherited my mother's estate, you've been out of control, quitting jobs to start a business, deciding to live with in-laws without even asking, taking out my savings to build a family home, and then planning a trip to Hawaii, who was the one who changed where money came in. I can't possibly stay with such people.
Hey, you can't just divorce me like that.
That's correct. If it comes to that, we will take 300 million with us.
So David and my in-laws were foaming at the mouth as they approached me. Just as I was about to respond, the door to the private room slid open.
Mr. Dad, Grandpa, and Grandma should know better. The inheritance Mom received doesn't become shared property, right, Mr. Ed?
There stood my daughter Julie and attorney Ed.
Julie and Tawario.
I'm Attorney Ed. Ashley's mother had entrusted me with this matter, and I've been advising Ashley.
As Ed bound, David seemed flustered.
Here's that's all well and good, but wait. The inheritance doesn't become shared property, does it?
That's good. Inherited property from a deceased parent does not become shared property, nor is it subject to, division of property.
You gotta be kidding me. I say you've gotta be kidding me.
Is this a mistake?
I can't be.
As in front of the flustered three, I was taken aback. It seems that they really thought that the inheritance I received would become their property.
Stop it already.
Since Mom suggested divorce, no, since Mom inherited the estate, has Dad ever thought about Mom once? Grandpa and Grandma only ever talk about money. They never once mentioned me. I can't consider such people as family.
Besides Tadeo's crying about my inheritance, Julie was the one who spoke up. Julie came running after me, and she told me Dad, Grandpa, and Grandma are too much trying to take Grandma's legacy for themselves. Ma, I'm on your side. Let's fight this together. With those words, I made up my mind, contacted Ed, and arranged this meeting.
Julie, it's not like that. Dad wants you to be happy. And there's...
That's right, Julie, dear. You'd be happier living with us, wouldn't you?
That's right. A child shouldn't interfere.
My desperate husband and still assertive in-laws. Julie, with an exasperated look on her face, said, "I'm going with Mom. I can't bear to be with you anymore." Julie said this and looked away. It's anyway, we've made up our minds. Julie and I will be leaving.
As I said this calmly, David got angry.
I calmly stated, but David got angry.
He said, "Hey, I've never cheated, and you can't force a divorce. I'll hire a lawyer, we'll get that money one way or another."
He spoke quietly, and so the issue here is whether there are grave reasons for not continuing the marriage, quitting his job, using the household savings without permission, deciding to live. The other, and Julie saying she can't bear it. There are various points we can argue. Moreover, your daughter recorded the sound of all of you begging for Ashley's inheritance. That should also serve as evidence.
God damn it. David slumped, and my in-laws turned pale.
Julie and I left the restaurant after seeing that.
Dear later.
Thanks to Ed's efforts, my divorce with David was finalized.
Julie and I moved into the house my mother had lived in. However, there were several times when we received letters saying, "I love you, come back." David was also seen loitering near Julie's school, so we asked it to apply for a restraining order. After that, it was quiet. According to the rumors, they actually did build a two-family home. My already retired in-laws had to work in a factory, and although David looked for work, he couldn't find any and is now doing manual labor. I heard from the neighbors that there were constant arguments in the new two-family house. Because of their troublesome fights, they've become disliked by everyone in the neighborhood. Julie and I are still living peacefully, helping each other. A while ago, Julie said, "I want to study abroad in the country where Grandma grew up." So, to cut ties completely with my ex-husband, made up our minds to move overseas. We used a bit of my mother's inheritance, but I'm sure she would be pleased. Now, Julie seems to be enjoying school every day, and I've started working as a teacher there. I hope these peaceful days continue. A half year later, the arrogant side chick was almost crying. I'm Michelle, a 48-year-old housewife. I've been with my husband, Steven, since college, and we got married 3 years after we both started working. We had our first daughter, Linda, right away, and then 2 years later, our son, Matthew. There were tough times, like when I was distressed by my daughter's friendship problems, or was consumed with nursing my son who is prone to illness. But those are all good memories. Our children have grown up and are now enjoying their college life living alone. Our marriage has lasted for over 20 years. My husband is bossy, but has always been diligent in his work. But he left all the housework and child rearing to me. But since my friends often grumble about similar things, I've never given much thought about it. This is just how husbands desire. Our passion burned out long ago, but we had a sense of companionship as a couple who've been together for many years. Both the physical affection and the commonality have decreased, but I guess that's what happens with any long-term couple. Both the physical affection and conversations have decreased, but I guess that's what happens with any long-term couple. I don't have any major complaints, but there's no excitement either. I do the housework, work part-time, and take care of my husband. I guess this routine will continue until one of us passes away. I thought my husband wanted that too, but it turns out he was betraying me. One weekend, my husband brought a young woman home. She introduced herself as Stephanie and seems to be his subordinate. Apparently, she's 26, about the same age as our daughter. As he embraced her, my husband said something shocking.
I'm marrying her. I want a divorce.
Excuse me?
It was like a bolt out of the blue.
Matthew's turned 20, so our role as parents is done. I want to spend the rest of my life with the person I truly love.
Hold on a minute. I can't digest all of this.
Siri, the woman, my husband's subordinate, sneered at my confusion. Darling, I'm marrying her, so we want you to leave. What does that mean? Do you mean, darling? I don't understand. While I was reeling, the two of them began to emphatically talk about their love and why they should be together. They said, it's wonderful to love someone, and I might have agreed if it were it's someone else's story.
This is my junior at work, and she's been healing my tired body and soul from work and home life. I help her with her mistakes, treat her to delicious meals, and even bought her a bag as my wife ever achieved such a gift from me.
In a fit of bitter laughter, I deny their so-called pure love.
Cis men find wealth charming too, don't they? The reason why you old hags get dumped is because you don't understand that.
I understand that. I've always known that. I'm not planning on lying and saying, I don't need money. I appreciate my husband who works hard, but that's not the point here.
My husband sighed, seemingly irritated. If I'm going to spend the same money, I'd rather spend it on a young, cute girl who knows how to please a man. You're past sell-by date. That's not what I mean. Extra time is up. We want you to leave. The young woman clung onto my husband and looked down on me. My world came crashing down, and all I could do was stare back at them with despair. I couldn't utter a word. That the following week was hell. My husband started going to this woman's house with no reservations and barely spent time at home anymore. On the other hand, the woman kept barging into our house every Wednesday, berating me. On the other hand, the woman kept barging into our house every day, berating me.
Are you still here? Hurry up and get a divorce. How pathetic to cling onto a man who doesn't love you. You're so embarrassing, old lady.
Why do I have to put up with this woman's verbal abuse? What did I do to deserve this? Action, I was angry, but I had planned to spend my life with my husband till the end, so it took time to accept the reality. Besides, I was paralyzed at the thought of the impact this could have on my children's future, as they would end up with a single parent. It was my children who finally gave me the push I needed.
Mom, why didn't you talk to us about this before?
Like my daughter and son, who were living on their own, came home for the weekend and seemed to know the situation.
Linda, Matthew, why?
Dad reached out to us. He said, your mom is jealous of a younger woman and is reluctant to get a divorce. Matthew, you understand how I feel, don't you? My son said, looking disgusted as he spat out my husband's selfish argument.
That's terrible. The mistress is 26, right? She's about my age. That totally sucks.
My daughter made a face, seemingly utterly disgusted, and then she forcefully slapped my shoulder.
You should just get a divorce.
But what if it affects your job prospects or future marriages?
If someone's going to judge me based on that, I wouldn't want them in my life anyway.
My daughter said, sticking out her tongue and making a goofy face. Hey, Mom, have you ever considered thinking about yourself more than us? If you divorced Dad, would there be any issues? With the house, I would only have to take care of myself. For money, if I can get him to pay for the kids' college tuition, I can survive on my part-time job and the rent income from the apartment. Beaks inherited from my father. Without him, I can even start learning, right? I won't be scolded for going to lunch with my friends on weekends, cheering for an idol on TV without being told it's embarrassing to fawn over young men would be nice. In the first place, he's the only one who's infatuated with a younger woman. If I divorce him, I'll be free of all these annoyances, right? Isn't that the best?
I won't have any problems even if I get a divorce.
Italy, if to declared out loud. The moment I said that, I felt as if everything in front of me had suddenly become brighter. Exactly. In fact, the one who's going to have issues marrying a selfish man like Dad is his mistress, right?
Yes, exactly.
My daughter strongly agreed. Mom, we appreciate how much you care about us, but I'd rather see you happy. I can get through anything if you're healthy. You're only 48. It's not even halfway through your life. It's a waste to dedicate the rest of it to that crappy father. We'll try our best to become independent. You should live your life yourself, Mom.
Linda.
Thank you. I'm so lucky to have you both as my children.
That's because you raised us with so much love, Mom.
Despite feeling exhausted from being betrayed by the husband I trusted, my children's words brought comfort to my heart. I haven't wasted my life. I haven't until now, and I won't in the future. I won't hesitate anymore. I will live the rest of my life for myself. Once I completely got over my feelings for my husband, I acted swiftly to divorce while their affair is still going on. There's a risk that their relationship could end before our divorce is finalized, which could complicate the divorce proceedings. I hired a lawyer who specializes in divorce cases and prepared to move out. But since everything was ready, I informed my husband of my intention to divorce and arranged a meeting. We settled all matters such as the kids' college expenses, asset division, and alimony within reasonable bounds. Honestly, I wanted to leave him penniless, but making the divorce process smooth was the top priority. Besides, it was clear to see that the cheating pair was on a path to disaster. Well, doing anything unnecessary could prolong the divorce process, and I didn't want to poke the hornet's nest. My ex-husband paid me a lump sum, as if he was disposing of an expired woman, like one would pay for a garbage disposal. The mistress was reluctant at first, as his fortune dwindled, but for some reason that I can't fathom, she seemed to reconsider him as a generous spender. I nearly burst out laughing at their farcical display, but I held it in, just a little more patience. A man who knows nothing but pride, and the woman who's after nothing but money. They have no idea how much they're going to struggle from here. Hey, Mr. and Miss Yous over there. Our last joint effort as a couple was submitting our divorce papers to the city hall. Behind us in the line at the counter was that mistress. It's as if to rub it in our faces. After we completed our divorce filing, she boldly asked for a marriage license of the kid. The city hall employee looked astonished, comparing us three, then hesitantly handed over the papers to the woman. There she was, hugging the papers as if she'd won a trophy. I felt like it was none of my business, but I needed to confirm with the woman.
Are you sure you're okay with that, Di?
What? Sour grapes? You're the one who wanted a divorce. Hurry up and get it done, lady.
All right.
If this young girl with a future is being deceived by this old man, it's truly a pity. But it looks like I can pass on the joker without any qualms. Also leaving the two behind, who had begun to fill out the marriage registration form in a cuddle, I left the city hall. The sky was clear and blue. I wondered if those two are also looking at the same scenery. And so I started a new chapter in my life. After the divorce, I moved into one of the apartments that I owned. Of course, there's no rent. It's in my hometown, so there are plenty of old classmates around, and I'm never short of people to talk to. It's also convenient for transportation, so my daughter and son come to visit on weekends. I couldn't thank my parents enough for leaving me such a place. The only worry was quitting my part-time job where I had worked for many years, but I was lucky that it was a chain store. The manager pulled some strings and got me hired at a store near my new place under the same conditions. It was all worth it for having worked so diligently for so long. The only time I felt a little lonely was the first month when I cooked too much food. Now, enjoying the joy of living alone and cooking just for myself every day. About half a year into these days, I got a call from an unknown number. I inadvertently answered it, and a woman shrieked in a piercing voice without even introducing herself. She said, "Hey lady,
Where's the irritating way of speaking? Unforgettable. My ex-husband's mistress.
But blaming others for the seed she herself has sown, it's just too much.
Fuck the accusations. All I did was relay the fact that my husband is divorcing me to be with a young, cute colleague at work. That's what you were saying, wasn't it? And I only spoke the truth and did farewell to the people who had been good to me.
But it's really strange that everyone didn't show up.
My ex-husband's family and co-workers are all serious people. They don't accept dishonest people like the both of you. We were just seeking true love. Oh, really? How about explaining to everyone what true love is then?
Wait, you still want to have a wedding?
How incorrigible.
But of course, I made a promise with him. I'm going to wear a white dress at the wedding, and we'll go to Hawaii for our honeymoon. We'll take photos in the wedding dress with the blue sea in the background. You're jealous, right?
What a cheerful woman.
That's a lovely dream. But do you know how much it will cost?
Wait.
It cost about $200 million to raise a child.
She seemed a bit flustered, but she boasted, but it's okay, because he earns a lot.
He may be earning now, but your husband will retire when your child is still in middle school. After that, even if he's rehired, his income will drop significantly, and his pension is still far off.
Oh?
I wonder if she felt something there.
Even though his salary might be higher than your friend's husband's, if you consider his age, he's just average. In fact, he's already earned most of his lifetime income.
Dear.
She seemed stunned over the phone. She really made a child without thinking. As I thought, but it's too foolish to be astounded. He'll be hitting 60 in just over 10 years. His blood pressure is high too, which is a concern for his health.
What?
Oh, you didn't know that? Have you been properly looking at his medical examination results? He should have had issues every year.
She seemed to be at a loss for words. My ex-husband hates hospitals, so I had a hard time getting him to go for re-examinations without his nagging ex-wife. He's probably ignoring his health check and eating and drinking as he pleases.
We think he'll be able to work healthfully until retirement, but don't worry, you're young. You can still work for over 30 years. By the way, are you on maternity leave right now?
I asked her sarcastically, knowing she wouldn't be able to return to her job after her maternity leave. As the news of their infidelity and illicit marriage had reached the higher-ups in their company. They both faced disciplinary actions for violating compliance policies, extinguishing any chance she had to resume her job after maternity leave. A friend who was my ex-husband's colleague had duly reported this to me. She might have had a chance of redemption if she had realized the harsh scrutiny she was under when nobody wanted to attend their wedding, but it seemed she had finally understood the gravity of her situation.
Good luck. He can't do any household chores or take care of the baby, but if your love is real, you can overcome anything. I really admire you.
I
have a lunch date with my friends. Enjoy your child rearing, housework, and taking care of your husband.
Cut her off without listening to her response. She was probably shocked by the dismal reality of her age gap marriage and the infidelity that she blindly rushed into. I'd love to see the look on her face up close and laugh, saying that's what you deserve. But I'll pass on that. Spending time with my beloved friends is more worthwhile than belittling a hated adversary. Spending time with my beloved friends is more worthwhile than belittling a hated adversary. Fast forward a year.
Hey, you Michelle, right?
As I was leaving my apartment, a man called out to me. It was my ex-husband. This was the first time I had seen him since our divorce.
Long time, no see.
My ex-husband smirked, raising the corners of his mouth. I tried to recall if he'd always had such a creepy smile. In the first place, I hadn't even seen his smile in recent years. I thought various emotions would well up upon seeing his face, but surprisingly, I handled it calmly.
What do you want?
It's cold, aren't you? We were together for 20 years.
It was you who wrecked that relationship. Ignoring my sour expression, my ex-husband started rattling off complaints about his new married life. In short, his new wife is nagging him to stop wasting money, take care of the baby, wash the dishes, and do the laundry. He should also start saving money because he's almost retiring. He should this with this kid because he's a father. He should be changing diapers and caring for their son more. This my ex-husband gripes as if she's saying something unreasonable, but her claims are generally accepted as a norm in society. She's finally realized this unhealthy, lazy man who doesn't help with housework or child rearing will be nothing but a burden when he retires. And in this age, when it's normal for fathers to help with housework and child rearing, she must be shocked to see her friends' husbands actively doing housework. The problem is the man in front of her, who even after 2 years can't seem to understand his position.
When you get married, women change. It's scary, but you never said things like do the housework or help with the kids, did you?
And that's right.
Times were different then, and I too thought that was the norm.
That's why I realized the only one really loved me was you. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Taken aback by my ex-husband's absurd statement, I blinked in surprise. I wonder what kind of misconception this foolish face has. He scratches his nose with an embarrassed grin and starts to speak.
Cozy lonely being single at your age. You're even more beautiful than when we were married. I thought maybe you were waiting for me to come back. Sure, you're a little old, but you were the best, because you always went along with me, without complaining. I'm willing to forgive it, so you should be honest too.
Excuse me.
You still love me, don't you?
What the hell are you talking about?
As I let out a strange scream and nearly fell over. What? My ex-husband jerked at my shriek and froze. I thought that my resentment and anger towards my ex-husband had softened due to the enjoyable days after the divorce, but the anger welled up again at his outrageous attitude. What
kinds of nonsense are you talking about in broad daylight? What exactly would I gain by getting back together with a man like you who has no redeeming qualities? Huh? If I've become more beautiful, it's probably because I'm stress-free now that I'm separated from you. I'm grateful to your mistress. Thanks to her, I was able to divorce you and then is having a great time. I'm really glad I didn't have to live a life changing your diapers. No way. My ex-husband's face turns pale in my from rebellion, probably seeing it for the first time.
That's right. Even when he declared divorce, I didn't tell him my true feelings, and even after we are separated, I just went with everything without complaining.
Could you move aside? I'm going on a date now.
Ace, on date.
You're definitely being tricked. Wake up. That's fine. If I'm spending money, I'd rather it be on a young and handsome guy. You're past your expiration date. What? I'm just returning the words you once said to me, off. And if I had one more thing, you're just a large piece of trash that can be recycled.
He opens and closes his mouth like a fish, but it seems like he can't find any more words to say. Well, I have someone waiting for me. Let's both forget about each other and find happiness. Goodbye.
Michelle.
He calls my name in a pleading tone, but I don't even bother to turn around. I quickly walk away. At this rate, it won't be long before he's a 2-time divorcee. Someone once said that becoming happy is the best form of revenge, and I really believed that. After all, it seems like my brisk departure left him in complete shock.
Mom,
But just when I reach the meeting place, my daughter is waving her hand and approaching me. She's my date for today.
Sorry I'm late. Your dad showed up.
are you okay?
I'm fine. I finally got to say everything I've wanted to say, and I feel so refreshed. But right now, it's all about the concert. I worked my part-time job really hard for this day.
Take him home, shall we go?
Yes.
Today is the concert of a male singer I've always loved, and it's my second time attending. I've even become capable of securing tickets without my daughter's help. I've picked up other hobbies, but following this singer is my top pleasure right now. I attend his musicals with friends. I play his new songs over and over in my car. Even my son sends me updates about his performances on TV shows. It's not just the freedom to chase after what I love that makes me happy, but the fact that everyone is supporting my passion. I might be laughed at for being an old woman fan, but it's fine. I'm not bothering anyone after all. This is my life. I completely forgotten how fun it can be to live for myself. Cooking for my family, planning outings for the kids, maintaining a comfortable home for my husband. Those things brought their own satisfaction. I found my value in those things, and the thought of losing all my past and my worth with a divorce was terrifying. But it wasn't like that at all. My children cherish me. It's the relationships and the work that I've built up over the years are still very much alive. Other than clinging to the past, it's much more enjoyable to give it your all and start a new life. Stepping into the unknown requires courage, but once you get started, there are many exciting new encounters. I'm going to enjoy living my life to the fullest. It's in the midst of our quarrel, my husband sided with my sister, grinning wickedly. However, having executed a ruthless revenge plan against those two, I will share that story today. I'm a 28-year-old employee, and my husband, whom I married last year, is 2 years older than me. He's 30. Let me share a bit about my background. My parents divorced when I was young. My sister and I were taken in by our mother, who raised us single-handedly. Despite the divorce, we still meet with our dad once a month. I'm not sure how my mother felt, but I loved my dad very much. My mother was tough and always assertive, always positive. She was like a ray of sunshine for us. However, she passed away due to illness when I was a sophomore in high school. My sister is 3 years older. Beach. She was extremely cute from childhood with distinct facial features like a child actress. Even when we walked together as kids, my sister would often get comments from strangers like, "You look..." Is the doll, are you sisters? You don't look much alike. I was fed up with hearing those insensitively blunt words that hurt me without them realizing it. Even as a kid, it hurt. Compared to my sister, he was treated like a nerd, unpopular girl. Despite that, I was proud of and loved my beautiful sister. I adored her, but there was one thing I didn't like. My sister always desired my belongings. She'd casually take my clothes and things and take them to her room as if they were hers.
Consequences, people's opinions. If you worry about that stuff, you'll never survive. If we're happy, nothing else matters. If you keep concerning yourself with what others think, happiness will keep slipping away from you just like this time.
She would casually take my clothes and things and take them to her room as if they were hers. But it didn't stop at material possessions. For some reason, she would exchange contact information with my friends, and if she just became friendly with them, it would have been fine. But she somehow managed to steal those friends away from me. In the end, she even took away all my old flames. As for priorities and caused the material, I was slow to notice it, but once I did after the third boyfriend, I stopped introducing them to her. And I hid my relationship with my now husband until our marriage was decided.
During your relationship, she would often say, I know you have a boyfriend. You can't fool me. Introduce him to me. We're sisters after all.
I told her I've decided not to introduce my boyfriend to you anymore. Because you always take them from me. I'll introduce him to you when we've decided to get married. To this, she laughed off and said, "Oh, are you insecure?"
The one who gets their boyfriend stolen is at fault, You get them taken away because you don't work on yourself. You reap what you sow. Don't blame everything on me.
Of attitude reaffirmed my decision never to introduce any boyfriend to her again. Happiness came out of the blue after dating him for a year and a half. He proposed in the chick restaurant, living straight on my dreams. Of course, I was delighted and decided to get married. Once we've decided to get married, it's time for the families to meet. Also couldn't avoid introducing him to my sister anymore. On the day I introduced him to my sister and my father, as expected, my sister showed up in a dress as if she were attending a wedding. Arthur also seemed a bit tense.
The dad says, "I've decided to get married to him."
As I introduced my fiancé, my sister's eyes sparkled. As expected,
Wow, he's so handsome. What does he do for a living? Her usual flirty tone.
his family runs a food-related business. Being an only child, he's the promised successor. Upon learning that, my sister got even more excited.
What do you like about my sister? I'm good at cooking, and ever since our mom passed away, I've been the one doing most of the household chores. Oops, did I say too much? Sorry.
Every time I introduce my boyfriend, she can't stop making comments that lower my rating. I don't particularly hate cleaning, but due to my busy job, I made it a habit to do a thorough cleaning every weekend.
As I wondered how he would respond, he said, "I'm surprised that Ava's sister is beautiful this much. I thought you were an actress, you're good at housework. But I'm right, it might be nice to live together. The three of us, he said, playfully with a gleam in his eyes.
Perhaps it made her feel good, but my sister also said, since we're going to be family, it might be better to exchange contact information. She handed him a handmade business card despite being a part-timer who doesn't even work properly.
I felt a bit disappointed at this point. I wanted to argue back about housework is entirely different. My sister is extremely off-ED. She cleans obsessively several times a day, even though she doesn't have money. She insists on cooking without additives because of her big ego. The food she makes is mostly steamed vegetables under the title of a taste of ingredients. Well, it might be good for her health, but whether it can be called cooking when it's just microwaving is questionable. Ever since I started working, I've been cooking my own meals.
As Asian, my father told my sister, who was eagerly getting involved, don't always take your sister's stuff, go find your own. It's unseemly to reach out for other people's stuff. You're not that young anymore. Because possible. Get married while there's someone willing to take you, he said, half joking.
Touched my sister, her face red with anger. Snapped. I don't want to hear that from a divorced man. I feel sick. I'm leaving. And stormed out.
My father said, don't worry about your sister. I'll take care of it. Please make her happy. I've put a lot of burden on my daughter, and pleaded with him.
He also said, leave it to me, I will make her happy, and please continue to support us. And time flowed happily as if the earlier incident had never happened.
After that, I greeted his parents. Nice to meet you. We've recently gotten engaged. We look forward to your guidance and support. Thank you.
Oh, don't be nervous. You're such a beautiful girl. It feels like we suddenly have a new daughter.
We're a small business, but we're hoping you might consider working with us. We wouldn't want to force you, but would you think about it?
I had already heard about this from my fiancé. I'm currently doing office work, so it's my area of expertise. Yes, I have heard about it from him. I'll certainly try my best if there is something you can do. I'm looking forward to working with you both professionally and personally.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's a relief to have you here since we're just learning as we go with the office work. We're looking forward to working with you too.
At that time, I was completely caught up in the dream of marriage. Considering that I didn't have a mother and was on bad terms with my sister, we decided not to have a wedding ceremony. Of course, we didn't have much money for the wedding. We registered our marriage at the government office, and we officially became husband and wife. I left my previous job to start working at my father-in-law's company. I thought I had a happy life ahead of me, but I started noticing something odd after I started living with my husband. He takes a day off from work very often, being completely spoiled because his parents own the business. Even his parents, so is used to this. Don't say a word when he takes a day off. And then one day when he slacked off from work, something happened. I had forgotten my phone at home and came back during lunch break to get it, but there were a pair of high heels at the entrance. Missing for then a strange feeling. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Moreover, those high heels were the same ones my sister had taken from me before. Understood the situation instantly and decided to go outside, acting as if I hadn't seen anything. That night, he acted as if nothing had happened. I had absolutely no trust in him anymore. My sister, oblivious to the fact that she's just being played by her numerous boyfriends, keeps insisting that she's popular. Wanting to know more about my sister, I hired a private detective to investigate her. After reveals the sections, I was shocked by the investigation's results. After a month, my sister had been involved with 7 different men in that month, besides my husband, and all of them were married. My sister had never held a full-time job. Whenever she did work, it was part-time, and she couldn't stick with it because she had a big ego. If she was scolded, she didn't go to work anymore. When she was younger, she used to have a bunch of sugar daddies. She looked down on me, working and earning my own money, and said confidently, "If a woman is cute, she can get by in life." Perhaps she began to feel the limits of relying on sugar daddies as she got older. Still, my sister, unable to be independent, was hooked on easy dating apps in hopes of marrying into money and would rich men and get involved with them. However, all those men were already married. My sister was just their plaything, oblivious to the fact. In the end, she was involved in extramarital affairs with 8 men, including my husband. It was disgusting to even breed the same heir as such a husband. So I brought up the topic of divorce.
My husband retorted, Xiaoying, if you want a divorce, so if that's what you want, fine. I'll give you a divorce. But remember, you're the one that started this, so no alimony.
I can frown enough of assassin deals like if you were having an affair with my sister. Where are you? I know everything. How can you cheat on your wife with her sister?
Upon hearing this, my husband responded, "Oh, that makes things easier. I'll divorce you and marry your sister. Even our parents know. It'll be quicker to have her over and be a witness to our divorce papers." He then called for my sister.
She arrived in a matter of minutes.
Seeing my sister only fueled my anger. I asked her, "Do you realize what you've done? It's only natural for others to... They look at you coldly because you both betrayed me. Are you prepared for the consequences?"
In response, my sister belittled me, saying consequences, public opinions. If we cared about such things, we couldn't lie. If we're happy, it doesn't matter what others think. If you keep worrying about how others see you, happiness will slip away. Just like this time, I was relieved that the sister I loved so much in my childhood was no longer there. If I could cut ties with her, I would do it gladly. The divorce was finalized without a hitch. I didn't want alimony, so I told them, in return, never see me again. My ex-husband responded with a grin, saying, "Well, that's a relief. A peaceful divorce."
My sister said, consequences. Public opinions. If we cared about such things, we couldn't live. If we're happy, it doesn't matter what others think. She belittled me, saying, "If you keep worrying..." He says about how others see you, happiness will slip away. Just like this time. I'll also cut ties with you. I've taken the position of the company president's wife. I was relieved.
After the divorce, I decided to stay at my in-laws' house until I could find a place to live. The next day, I filed for divorce and became a single person again. This is where my plan got set in motion. I sent a legal letter to my sister's affair partner right after filing for divorce.
My sister panicked over the alimony demands from the wives of 7 men she had affairs with. She pleaded with my ex-husband, saying, "We can get married if you pay this alimony. You're gonna be the next president, so why don't you take some money from the company?"
I didn't want alimony, so I told them, in return, never see me again. My ex-husband didn't have any money, and he couldn't possibly take money from the company. He was rational about this, curious that she had been involved with 7 other men besides him. All he had in front of him were alimony demands for a vast sum from the affair partners. His future was looking bleak. That wasn't the end of his misfortunes. A few days after I reported the divorce and my sister's affair to my dad, I was dining with my dad, who was concerned about my health. I casually mentioned my ex-husband's parents' company, and my dad said, "The president of that client company is my old buddy." Small world. We still go out for drinks regularly. He was the first person I consulted when we got divorced. He even performed at my wedding as a friend when I married your mom. It turned out that he had a relationship with the president of the client company. My dad, who was furious about this whole situation, could talk to his old friend about the divorce. He was furious that my ex-husband was so irresponsible. Knowing this, my dad contacted his old friend. He was the president who I had met several times at work.
Small world, isn't it? I can't forgive that guy who hurt your beloved daughter. I'm going to take action immediately. Don't worry, I won't let anyone but him be unhappy.
The next day, when I went to work, Robert looked a bit panicked. The client company said that they cannot trade with a company where my son will be the next president. Following that, related companies have also proposed to stop trading.
Well, it's natural to hear such a divorce story. Trust is the most important thing for a company like ours. It's about time that lazy son got a reality check. It's natural for a company to want to get rid of him. We've spoiled him too much. He's always skipping work without permission, slacking off when he's there, and then he has the audacity to suggest that manual tasks could be done by AI. Yeah. He's not welcome in our company anymore. If we left the company to him, it would go under.
You're right, the company would just go under if you took over. I have a proposal, it's a bit sooner than planned. But Emily, can we tell her about that thing?
This is perfect timing. Go ahead, darling.
This is something we've discussed before the divorce, but my foolish son is good for nothing. He's a burden to the company. Therefore, I'd like you to learn various aspects of the job over the years. As a potential future president. It's not about blood relations, but a proposal to protect your precious company. I hope you will accept it.
Also, I was taken aback. I didn't have confidence in myself, but I dearly love them. Robert and Emily, I want to help them. Without hesitation, I answer, I will do everything I can. I want to be of help to you, Robert and Emily. Please allow me to continue working in this company. I wish to be able to protect this company over the years. I'm at your service. To you, Robert and Emily, Even though our form as a family has ended, I'm happy to have a deep relationship with them.
The planner decision, Robert called in my ex-husband. Feeling the unusual atmosphere, my ex-husband appeared promptly. I explained the circumstances. My ex-husband, who had been smugly assuming he'd be the next president, was startled. When he found out that I had inherited the position of the next president, he started yelling at me.
Playing the victim. Huh. A plain Jane, like you need to have decent personality survives, trying to usurp my company. I've got no intention of stepping down. What kind of language is that for a future president? You're nothing more than a ghost employee who barely works. We no longer need such an employee in our company. Or fired.
But that's not about. I'll pass on a sinking ship of a company that's on the verge of going under. I'm quitting. Give me a severance pay of $100,000.
He was talking nonsense. It felt like talking to an out-of-touch child.
His mother, Emily, was laughing and said, "There's no way we have severance pay to give to you. If you say so, we'll have you compensate for all the losses the company has incurred due to your mistakes. You can't do that, can you? If so, you should quietly step back."
He puffed up with an annoyed look on his face and blurted out, "Jeez, leave me alone. I ain't dealing with you folks no more. Don't come crying at me in your old age because I'll kick you to the curb." It was hard to believe that he would say something like that to his parents.
Robert chuckled. No matter how hard times get, I ain't gonna come crying to you sorry, but this here company is doing way better than you think. Ain't never crossed my mind to rely on you on my retirement.
Said, we're done out here, and stormed out.
We all looked at each other and couldn't stop laughing.
Emily chimed in. "Good riddance. Knowing him, he'll be back crying in no time. But I ain't lifting a finger to help him. No, sorry, it ain't doing him any good."
Robert added, "That's right. Well,
Gotta thank him for finding us a darn good successor to take over the business.
My ex-husband said it's a peaceful divorce, and I reckon he's right. Later, I heard through the grapevine that he broke up with my sister. They must have come to their senses after seeing that big alimony. At Hutchins, I once spotted him working as a cashier at the nearby gas station. I was relieved to see him working hard, but that was the only time I saw him there. He probably couldn't stick with it and quit. As for me, I'm working my tail off in sales alongside the president. I absolutely adore Robert and Emily, who treat me like their own daughter. The company is bustling with more clients and new hires coming on board. I'm having a ball at work. Can't help it. My love life is in the pits, but my social life is through the roof. A fantastic family and Emily and Robert and a job I love. I'm part of a fantastic family with Emily and Robert, and I love my job. Life is just peachy right now. No more ties with my good-for-nothing sister, so no troubles whatsoever. I'm grateful for the connection my ex-husband gave me. Suddenly, I heard my husband scream from the bathroom. I rushed to see what was happening, and the sight of my husband made me gasp. My own scream echoed off the walls.
Can someone come here quickly?
I heard my husband's loud yell from the bathroom. Fletcher, as I entered the bathroom, I saw my husband, and I gasped. My own scream echoed off the walls. Looking at my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Their faces were clearly panicked. I suspect they're the culprits. Earlier that morning, I had overheard them talking. They were discussing something outrageous, like sending me to the afterlife, putting an end to me. And what sequires of the burial target is me. The thought of what would have happened had I been the one in there is too terrifying to bear. I will never forgive them. As I made up my mind, I noticed my husband standing next to me, seemed to share my sentiment. I am Betty, 35 years old. I work in a call center. My husband, Tim, who's the same age as me, works in a factory. We met at a 247 fitness gym. I have been going to the gym for 3 years now, so I have a regular crowd I see there. Most of the time, I didn't interact much, just listened to music with my earbuds in, silently doing my workout. One morning, as I was about to use a machine at the gym, the belt on the machine slipped off. Never having had this happen before, I panicked, thinking I might have broken it. At that hour, there was no staff around. With tear-filled eyes, I looked around helplessly. No matter what I did, I couldn't fix it.
Are you okay? This thing has been slipping off quite often recently.
Thank you so much. Upset we TSNC, I thanked him with a relieved face. Tim's body was muscular, and he was one of the regulars I often noticed. After that, we started talking whenever we met. The fact that we were of the same age, had irregular working schedules, and other commonalities brought us closer. Before I knew it, we had become quite close, despite not knowing each other for a long time. We could chat openly like old friends. I was really comfortable around him. 3 months after our first conversation, we started dating. After dating for 2 years, we decided to get married. I was so happy when he proposed, and I immediately said yes.
Just knew about power, Betty. It's okay to say no if you don't like it, but would you consider living with my family?
I hadn't thought about living with his family and didn't know what to say.
Tim continued dozing as stealthed or up aside. We'll put locks on our room to protect our privacy. You won't need to do household chores either. I know your job can be irregular, and it's tough. My mom and sister aren't working. If they give you any trouble, I'll protect you. My mom hurt her leg, and it seems like they could use an extra pair of hands around the house. I could tell he was considering my comfort in the situation.
I suggested, how about I meet your mom and sister first and then make my decision? Tim seemed relieved when I said that. Just a week later, we went to greet his family at his parents' house. Tim lost his father 5 years ago. His mother apparently worked as an administrative assistant until retirement. His sister is 3 years older than us and recently started living with them after getting divorced.
Hello there. Thanks for coming. Jim's mother welcomed us with a smile as we entered the house.
Upon hearing her voice, his sister came to the entrance and greeted us energetically. We chatted in the living room for a while after that. Both Tim's mom and sister were very lively, and I was laughing the whole time. I felt I could talk to them freely without holding back.
But to Tim talk to you about living together. Tim's mother asked on our way out. I'm sorry, it's my fault because of my bad leg. His mother apologized on our way out.
And we won't disturb your newlywed life. Tim's sister assured us.
Pacing after meeting and talking to them directly, I felt I might be okay living with them. So I responded, of course. I'd be glad to. Everyone looked relieved and thanked me. I can't say I was completely without concerns, but I felt we could build a happy home together with these people. A month later, I started living at Tim's family home. Just as Tim had promised, our room had a lock and his mother and sister couldn't come in. Thinking about our newly married life started making me feel excited. Both my husband and I have jobs with irregular schedules, and we often have night shifts. While we were unpacking after the move, we realized we might often miss each other, but we made a point to cherish the time we spent together. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were just as cheerful and kind as when we first met. They took care of most of the housework, so we only had to help out a bit. I noticed my mother-in-law having trouble walking, so I decided to do what I could in her stead. However, one day, my husband was at work and I was off after a night shift. Dining table.
Hey, don't you think you should be more proactive about doing chores?
It's nice to be healthy and just stay in your room all the time, isn't it?
Her tone was unlike their usual selves, and I wondered if I was dreaming. I apologized and said, "I'll be more careful from now on." I then went to the bathroom to wash my face. I realized that I had been relying too much on my mother-in-law and sister-in-law for housework. Feeling remorseful, I took on more chores that day. However, they seemed displeased with my housekeeping and reprimanded me multiple times. While cooking dinner, my husband arrived home. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were sitting on the couch watching TV.
This is Daddy cooking dinner. She must be tired from a night shift.
No, it's okay. I wanted Tim to have some of my homemade cooking for a change. I decided to take charge of dinner tonight.
During dinner, my sister-in-law and mother-in-law were completely different from the afternoon, saying, "This is the delicious Betty. You're really good at cooking. And to teach me how to make this next on time in a cheerful manner."
I thought to myself, these people must be two-faced. From then on, they became strict with me on days when my husband wasn't home. Despite this, I went about my chores smoothly, though they always seemed dissatisfied. Then, one day, as my husband and I were watching TV, my mother-in-law stood up to go to the bathroom. She seemed to be having a particularly bad day and was having a hard time walking, so I stood to support her. But after a few steps, she suddenly fell. "Ouch, Betty! Why did you push me?" She cried, crouching down and holding her leg. The itty body of the people. I hadn't pushed her, of course. To me, it looked as if she had fallen on purpose. Hearing her cry out, my husband rushed over and asked, "Mom, are you okay? Betty, did you push her?" As he looked beneath. When I attempted to deny the accusation, she dramatically sighed. "Betty, you're not alone." When I attempted to deny the accusations, she dramatically sobbed. She pushed me hard. In fact, she's done this multiple times on the days Tim isn't home. How cruel, just because she didn't want to live together with us.
At this point, my sire emerged from her room and exclaimed in a seemingly exaggerated tone, "Mom, did she do it to you again?" while glaring at me.
As I stood there flustered, Tim lashed out at me. "Betty, if you have any problems, talk to me. There's no need to take it out on Mom."
This was the first time he had raised his voice at me since we'd been together. He didn't see the moment his mom fell. I was devastated that he quickly assumed and didn't even consider a possibility that I wouldn't do such a thing. I didn't do anything, I said, tears welling up in my eyes. I fled to my room to escape the situation. Appalled as I looked back through my tears, I saw my sister-in-law smirking. This was definitely done on purpose.
Actually, after a while, Tim came back into the room and said, "I'm sorry for yelling earlier. Because Mom has trouble walking. It seemed to her like she was being pushed. You don't have to worry about it. And it's... So, alright."
It's actually basically as nice of him to apologize, but he didn't seem to even consider the possibility that his mom had deliberately fallen. It also seemed like he didn't fully trust me. From then on, fearing more false accusations, I stopped helping my mother-in-law as much. That's about a month later. I finished my night shift and got home around 4 a.m. It was usually a time when everyone was asleep, so I quietly entered the house. But on that day, it felt like someone was awake. Thinking it was Tim, I headed towards the living room when I heard whispering from the bathroom. As I pressed my ear against the bathroom door, I heard my mother-in-law and sister-in-law's voices saying that would be the end of her. She's going to the other side. I was shocked by this conversation I'd overheard. I was terrified, wondering what they might do to me. Careful not to alert them, I quietly made my way to my room. I got into bed without taking a shower, but I couldn't sleep as their conversation kept replaying in my mind. The next day, I was scheduled to attend a friend's wedding. I had hardly slept due to fear, not knowing what they might do to me if I stayed in this house, but I said to Tim, "I'm going shopping for tomorrow's wedding." I left the house at the same time as him.
Looked concerned, asking, "Haven't you stopped at all?" That day, I decided to contact Tim so we could have dinner together and return home. "Oh, yeah, home," Tim said. There's a show I want to watch tonight." And sat down on the couch, folding on to sit down on the couch.
Seeing this, my Miles, seeming overly pleased, said, "Betty, you have a wedding to attend early tomorrow, right? Why don't you take a bath first?" I thought it was odd for someone to suggest that I take a bath. I usually am the last one to bathe. Suspicious, I went to check the tub and found some kind of black liquid floating in it. I couldn't quite figure out what it was. Could it be some unusual bath additive? It had a unique smell to it. However, having overheard a conversation this morning, I was scared to be the first one in. After confirming that my Mile and Sil were chatting in the kitchen, I sidled up to my husband and whispered, so only he could hear, "We've got 30 minutes till the show starts. Why don't you take a bath first?"
"Good idea. I'll jump in." Quickly, he said, and headed for the bathroom.
He took his place on the sofa. He said and headed for the bathroom. I took his place on the sofa. Whoa, what's this? "Can someone come here, please?" I could hear my husband shouting from the bathroom. I for additional plans annotates it. I don't think more than 3 seconds had passed since I'd heard the sound of him getting into the bath. When I rushed over, I saw my husband's body had been dyed jet black. I let out a cry of surprise. Looking back, my Mile and Seal were standing there with panicked looks on their faces. What should I do? How did this happen? My husband was frantically saying,
I asked. I know you prepared the bath, didn't you? What is that black liquid?
I mild, flustered, stuttered out, wasn't Betty supposed to bathe first?
My Sile was standing next to her, breaking out in a cold sweat.
Then, when my husband sniffed the urine, says, could this be hair dye? What are you gonna do about this? Oh, Mike, it's hard to get it off once it's on skin, solder,
My Mile and Sale said nothing. So for now, my husband got out of the bath and moved to the living room. At such a community, I read online that makeup remover could be used to get it off. So I gave some to my husband. He was scrubbing hard, but it didn't seem to be coming off easily. But the thought of what would have happened if I'd been the one to get in made me shudder. I would have had to go to a wedding the next day with my body, all covered in black dye. Moreover, I have very sensitive skin. There was one time I had my hair dyed, and even though they used a mild colorant, I couldn't stand the pain during the process and had to stop halfway. My scalp was severely irritated, and I felt unwell for a while after that. If I had gotten into a bath filled with hair dye, getting dyed black all over would have been the least of my problems. Most likely, I would have broken about and itches and pains all over my body, which would have been a terrible ordeal. Scrubbing hard to get it off would probably severely damage my skin too. Knowing what they did, the thought that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were involved is horrifying. I helped my husband, Tim, vigorously scrubbing the hair dye off his skin, just watching us desperately trying to remove it. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were whispering frantically to each other. That's for you, though we couldn't completely remove the stain, we managed to make it far less noticeable.
Then I said, Mother-in-law, sister-in-law, Tim, I need to talk. Please sit here at the dining table. I prompted them to sit down. The two of you were in the bathroom this morning around 4 a.m., right?
What are you talking about? We were obviously sleeping at that hour.
When my husband asked, is what were you talking about? I told him they were saying things like, he surprised him, said, what does that mean?
His mother retorted, were you dreaming or something? There's no proof of such a thing.
Then I pointed to my husband and said, this is the proof. When we got home, you suggested I take a bath, didn't you, Mother? I found that strange. I had mentioned that I have sensitive skin and our wedding is tomorrow, remember?
Oh, come on. It was just a little prank.
Tim asked with a stern face, leaving my sister-in-law silent.
Then his mother childishly complained, it's Betty's fault. She doesn't help around the house at all.
To this, Tim shouted back at his mother and sister, you serious Betty's working shields the chores whenever she can, just because you're unsatisfied doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. But get crabs.
I'd been putting up with your unreasonable behavior all this time. Do you have such resentment against me? This isn't something that can be brushed off as a prank. I will never forgive you for this.
Hearing our words, his mother and sister broke down crying.
I'm sorry.
Also went too far.
Then Tim said, I will never forgive you either. I don't know. I don't want to be family with people who do things like this. Leave by tomorrow, but where are we supposed to go? We don't have anywhere to go. That's not my problem. There's no way we can live together anymore. I'm off, so I'd be ready to leave by tomorrow.
Once Tim and I returned to our room, I could no longer hold back my tears. I had been scared ever since I overheard their conversation that morning.
I'm sorry, I let Tim take a bath after hearing their conversation.
It's okay, Betty. I'm really glad you didn't take a bath. You've been through a lot, haven't you? I'm sorry I didn't realize it earlier.
At her concessions, Tim forcibly drove his mother and sister out. They moved to our house just before we got married, and since the house is under Tim's name, he had the right to do so. He changed the walks while I was away at our wedding. Neither his mother nor sister have jobs. They had a bit of money left from the living expenses we had given them, but not enough to rent a place. They tried asking relatives for help, but it seems that they were turned away after Tim explained the situation to them. They ended up taking a loan to rent a place, but they weren't approved due to their lack of employment, having almost no work history, and with the rumors spreading around the neighborhood, they were unable to find even a part-time job. Currently, they seem to be sleeping in a youth hostel. They brought it upon themselves, I reckon. That's the life of just my husband and me began. Though we often have conflicting schedules, we exercise together at the gym or go for a morning run when our timings align. I'm living each day with a truly invigorating feeling.
On days when we can eat together, I make homemade meals.
You're coming off a night shift today, aren't you? You don't have to push yourself. Alicious, did your cooking skills level up again?
These moments are my happiness. Though there may be difficulties in the future, I want to live our lives helping each other. Because I couldn't stand it anymore, I called someone out. My husband constantly invites friends over every week and pushes me around even though I'm pregnant. His friends also act as if this is the norm.
One day, my husband, Nick, handed me a sleeping bag and said, "You can sleep here," and I was ousted to the kitchen.
I can't take it anymore. If you want to have a good time with your friends, I have my own ideas too. By the time they realize who's arrived, they'll be in for a shock. My name is Emma. My husband Nick is a former colleague from my company. We met at a toy company aimed at young children. He was always surrounded by friends, a sociable person with a wide circle of acquaintances. Being introverted, I admired Nick's sociability. So when he asked me out, I was pleasantly surprised despite not expecting it. Once I started dating Nick, I realized that despite seeming flamboyant, he was actually frugal and responsible. Surprisingly, we spent many of our dates at home. Relaxing.
Nick, you're always hanging out with various people, aren't you? I thought you prefer to go out more for dates.
When I mentioned this, he responded with slight awkwardness. So you saw me like that? Actually, I don't really like to waste money. I usually just go along with eating out or drinking with others, but I really prefer relaxing at home.
I see.
I myself prefer staying home, watching movies, or cooking together rather than going out. I was happy to see this unexpected side of him, a side he only showed to me. Gradually, I began to see him as a potential husband. He seemed to feel the same way, and a year into our relationship, Nick proposed to me. After getting married, Nick remained popular, often be invited to social gatherings by his colleagues. However, I was growing wary of him going out drinking every week.
Hey, I'd like to spend some weekends with you too.
Affection as I expressed my feelings. He responded while scratching his head. Yeah, you're right. My bad. From now on, I'll just drink at home. That way, you won't be lonely, right? I want you to get alone. And with my friends too. Since then, his friends and colleagues began to visit our home every weekend to drink. Nick's wife, more beer please. Emma, we're out of snacks. Among his friends, there was a female contract worker named Sandy, who didn't show any signs of helping out. I was run ragged by preparing drinks and snacks, never resting even over the weekend.
As always, he has to worry about catching the last train home tonight. Let's party till dawn.
Oh, that's what we were waiting for. You're the best, Nick.
Not worrying about the last train. Could it be, as I thought, they partied late into the night and ended up staying over? And when they woke up late in the morning, they would demand as if it was a tense cafe. Got anything to eat? Something easy on a hangover would be good,
he said. So my weekend ended without any rest, but if I complained about the situation, Nick would surely just go out to drink.
When I was wondering what to do, I found out I was pregnant. When I announced my pregnancy, Nick was overjoyed, really. That's great. So I'm finally going to be a dad. That's right. I have to report this to everyone right away. Without giving me a chance to stop him. Nick messaged them, Emma, everyone is happy for us and they want to celebrate. They're coming over this weekend. True to his words, his friends flocked to our house over the weekend and started partying harder than ever. They're here to celebrate, so I guess it can't be helped. Officially, I thought so and accepted it, but I was completely tired of them, who kept showing up week after week.
Hey Nick, I'm happy they want to celebrate, but I'm having morning sickness and it's hard, so I want you to stop inviting people over.
Dito says, what are you talking about? Wasn't it you, Emma, who said, I'm lonely, I want you to drink at home?
I told you not to go out drinking. I never said I wanted you to drink at home.
But I can't just leave you alone at home and go out drinking while you're pregnant. What if something happens while I'm gone?
Could it be that he's worried about me and drinking at home for my sake?
But every week is a bit too much.
Aye, but right now, everyone's just trying to celebrate our baby. We can't just, ignore their feelings, right?
Having been told that, I had no choice but to concede.
I understand, but I'm having morning sickness, so I don't think I can prepare much food or snacks. I don't want to carry heavy stuff either. So will you handle the drinks, Nick?
Of course, just do what you can, Emma.
Believed by his words, I got through another weekend. Today again, their friends came to their house like they're used to.
Hey, ma'am, I brought beer. I'll put it here. Please keep it cool.
Alf, okay.
And also, these are ingredients for food. You don't have to cook anything fancy.
It seemed Nick had told them something as the friends started bringing drinks and food one after another. But they only brought things. The actual task of fetching drinks from the refrigerator. Making snacks was still left to me.
Hey, Nick's wife, can you bring us the beer from the fridge?
Emma, we need more snacks, please.
In the end, I had to do the cooking. I knew that talking to Nick would be pointless, so I gently told them, actually, I've been having really bad morning sickness lately, and that's why I've taken a leave of absence from work. So want you to refrain from coming to our house in the future.
But laughing, the friends responded to my words.
Exactly. So, I heard about it at work. Emma, you're on leave, right? Then you have to work for Nick, at least on weekends.
Right. Pregnancy isn't a sickness, so it's better if you move around a bit.
Understanding something. My feelings didn't get through at all, and the friends started to take advantage of me even more. I had thought they wouldn't stay the night, but deep into the night, Nick and his colleagues didn't slow down their drinking. As I expected, they continued to drink past the last subway time, got completely drunk, and were no longer in a state to return home. I was too tired to get angry anymore. When I tried to talk to Nick and then retired to the bedroom, Sandy, a contract employee, was already sleeping in our bed. I urgently appealed to him, saying, Sandy's sleeping in our bed?
Nick said, "Oh, she got pretty wasted, so I carried her to the bed." Lisa said, "I can't believe it. I want to rest too." Nick replied, "Yeah, that makes sense. Just wait a bit." I thought he was going to wake Sandy up and get her off the bed, but instead, Nick came back with a sleeping bag. He said, "You should sleep here for tonight." Saying that, Nick started setting up the sleeping bag in the corner of the kitchen. I was surprised and asked, Wait a second. You're telling me I'm sleeping here and in a sleeping bag?" Nick explained, "But we're still drinking in the living room. So this is the only place, right? I'm glad I bought this camping sleeping bag, haha."
Called by his friends, Nick returned to the living room with more drinks in his hands. With no choice, I spent the night in an uncomfortable sleeping bag. The next morning, I was awakened by a knock from Sandy. She said, "Hey, Emma, how long are you going to sleep? It's already 11 a.m., you know." I replied, "Sorry, I had trouble falling asleep last night." After a night in an unfamiliar sleeping bag and on the hard kitchen floor, I managed to fall asleep only when dawn broke. I only managed to doze off, and I'm not feeling refreshed at all.
She continued, I'm hungry. Don't we have anything for breakfast? Thanks to someone's oversleeping. It's more like brunch now. Wake me up when it's ready, okay? And then went back to
With a fuzzy head, I went to the living room where Nick and his friends were passed out drunk. The table was littered with the remnants of their food and drinks. It seems I'm the one who'll have to clean up this mess. As I was making a soup grudgingly, the smell attracted Nick and his friends. They said, "Oh, soup, huh? Nice." Sandy also came to the living room and started stuffing herself with rice soup and omelette. Like my Tensi, his friends too seemed to have become quite cheerful. They said, "Yesterday was so fun, man. I don't feel like going home today either. I get that. It's a long weekend after all. Let's have a second celebration." He said his words. The friends quickly regained their spirits. "Nick, that's a brilliant idea," they exclaimed. They were also wanting to celebrate again, colleague added.
Facing my dissatisfaction, Nick addressed me sternly. "Emma, what's with that attitude since a while ago? It's rude to everyone, isn't? I thought you'd be anxious being alone as a pregnant woman. So I'm holding back from going out drinking. They're all caring for me who can't go out drinking and have taken the trouble to come to our house, you know."
The friends also agreed with Nick's opinion. Holding back from drinking for the sake of his wife, Nick really cares about his wife. One of them said, but it will suffocate if you keep holding back. It's too much. We have to take a breather like this about once a week. We're always ready to accompany you, Sandy added.
Thanks for covering for my wife's selfishness. Everyone, Nick said, visibly relieved.
Encouraged by everyone, Nick didn't seem entirely displeased. I thought to myself, everyone's covering for my selfishness. Is this kind of drinking party going to continue every week from now on? That's ridiculous, I thought, but didn't say anything. Finally, I snapped at Nick's words. Got it, then can I invite someone too? I asked, half joking.
Hearing that, Nick nodded in relief. Yeah, you can invite whoever you want. It's more fun when there are many people, he said.
Hearing Nick's response, I immediately made a phone call to a certain place. In the afternoon, another friend of Nick's arrived. I didn't think everyone was drinking 2 days in a row. Thanks, the gesture exercised the undate night, Nick. He said, likewise, thank you for celebrating for us. Let's drink to our heart's content today. Nick replied with a smile.
It's then the doorbell rang again. Oh, looks like the person I'm invited is here too. Should I get the door? Nick asked, a little nervously.
Opening the front door, I saw the head of our department at the company. To the surprise of Nick and his friends, I explained the situation. This man is an old friend of my father. He has loved me as his own daughter since the day I was born. I said with a smile,
This precious Emma's come to me for help. When she's in trouble, that's why I came here. What seems to be the issue?
Well, we haven't done anything trouble Emma, I guess.
Right. Making a pregnant woman like me prepare late-night snacks and breakfast. Making me sleep in a sleeping bag. You don't think anything of it, do you, Nick?
Dick, are you treating Emma this way?
Just that everyone said they wanted to celebrate her pregnancy, so I couldn't refuse.
Suddenly being blamed, the friends hastily started to explain.
No, sir. We only accepted Nick's request because he said he couldn't go out drinking due to his wife.
Then the boss put an end to the disgraceful attempt to evade responsibility.
Shut up. It's made just to have a drink. A drinking party overnight in a house with a pregnant woman and let her sleep in the kitchen. Do you think that's appropriate for our company, a toy manufacturer? Targeting young children were very sorry. We'll excuse ourselves now.
That's the friends, startled by the boss's anger, quickly gathered their things and hurried to leave. Seeing their reactions, the boss shouted again.
Hey, are you going to make Emma clean up? Clean up the mess you've made for yourselves before you leave.
Being glared at by the boss, they started cleaning up the cluttered living room and doing the dishes. When the house was all tidied up, they left as if they were fleeing.
I said they want you to stay behind for a bit.
Amen.
After her friends left, the boss questioned a visibly uncomfortable Nick and Sandy.
Do you know why I asked Sandy to stay?
No, what are you talking about?
It's about the rumors between you, Nick, and Sandy. There's been talk within the company that you two have been having an affair.
That's a misunderstanding.
I had heard about Emma being pregnant and thought the rumors were baseless. I wanted that not to be the case, but he disappointed me. I was showed an email image sent by someone from the company. It contained images of Nick and Sandy entering a fancy restaurant, and coming out of a branch store carrying shopping bags.
It turns out Nick was not thrifty. He was just stingy with me. In fact, I had suspicions about his relationship with Sandy and mentioned my concerns to the boss. Upon hearing this, the boss immediately contacted several employees who had witnessed the two and provided photographs as evidence. I had witnessed Nick and Sandy together and provided photographs as evidence.
No, boss, there's nothing between Nick and me.
Actually, there's nothing between Nick and me. Yeah.
Even when confronted with evidence, their pathetic excuses disgusted me. I hesitated at the thought of our baby growing up without a father, but if the father is someone who can casually invite his affair partner into our home, it's better if he isn't around. I told Nick on the spot that I wanted a divorce.
I've had enough of your selfish excuses. Nick and I are getting a divorce. You two can do whatever you want.
What about our baby in your belly?
You, who let our child sleep in a sleeping bag on the kitchen floor, worried about our child. What are you saying now?
Fine.
There's no buts. You who cheated don't get a say. My conditions are asset division and child support.
How much is it going to be?
Who knows? You've done enough to deserve it, haven't you?
I'm a reconsider.
After that, the house became mine through property division. I made him agree to pay child support as well. The boss was present for all the discussions, so Nick reluctantly agreed to my terms. After the divorce, Nick left the house and moved in with Sandy. Some rumors of them living together quickly spread within the company, and their affair became public knowledge. Simply because their bad reputation also negatively affected the clients. It seems Sandy was fired and Nick was demoted. As the reason for the contract termination reached the temp agency, Sandy was unable to find a new placement. Nick also suffered a major salary cut due to his demotion. Sandy, now jobless, and Nick, who stretched thin by monthly child support payments, they have no wiggle room in their lives and are now forced to live a very frugal life. They are always fighting about money, and though they both want to break up, they are forced to stick together because neither of them has the funds to live alone. On the other hand, with the support of my family and the boss, I was able to give birth safely. Quesadillarians of the word the boss introduced me to a man, leading to a remarriage. As I created a new family, I've never been happier. Old Oak, like me, was expecting, but when he found out who my husband was,
how long are you going to keep me waiting?
To the free tea. A loud male voice echoed as I approached the lobby in front of the hospital's front desk, just past the main entrance.
This clinic operates on an appointment basis, sir. We already informed you that you would have to wait if you didn't have an appointment.
The receptionist shot back, standing her ground. The other patients in the corridor watched the exchange with looks of annoyance on their faces. I couldn't see the man's face because he was standing with his back to me. But he was pounding on the reception counter and threatening the receptionist, shouting, "What? I'm a doctor. I don't have all day like those retired folks out there. Put me first in line." He kicking a scene in front of the reception desk, effectively blocking it. Arterial coaching. I was at a loss as to what to do. Wow, what should I do? I had to pass by the angry man to present my medical card and insurance card to the receptionist, but the idea of getting close to him frightened me. There are 3 reception desks, but they were all halted and there were several other patients holding their medical cards, like me, stranded and keeping their distance. The clinic I go to is a private one, but it's one of the largest in the city. The clinic has a reputation for having excellent doctors, especially the gastroenterology department, which draws patients from outside the city. Despite being a large clinic, the head doctor's policy is always to put the patients first. The clinic has a classy atmosphere and serene to accommodate patients who come in with various health concerns. Normally, patients can spend their time in the waiting room peacefully, and it's always very quiet. I've been going to this clinic for several months now for prenatal checkups, and this is the first time I've experienced such a commotion. My name is Judy. I'm 40 years old and 32 weeks pregnant. I'm a nurse, but I'm currently on leave because I'm expecting a baby soon. I've been divorced once and remarried my current husband 2 years ago with a baby on the way. I don't want to take any chances. I decided to come back another day. As I made that decision, a receptionist called out from a distance, "I can assist you here." I breathed a sigh of relief and headed towards her. By the time I finished the reception, the man was sitting sullenly on the sofa in front of the reception. I was relieved that the commotion had subsided, but with the man sitting down, his face clearly visible, I thought he looked vaguely familiar, and then it hit me. It was my ex-husband. Why was he here? I was shocked and frozen in place. I hadn't seen him once since we divorced 7 years ago. He looked much older than I remembered and seemed to have gained quite a lot of weight. The huskiness in his recent outburst was reminiscent of a heavy drinker, making him hard to recognize at first. Feeling my gaze, my ex-husband looked up. As our eyes met, I abruptly turned my back. I wished he wouldn't notice me, but it was too late.
Hey, isn't that you, Judy?
I was reluctantly compelled to turn around by the loud call of my name from behind. Seeing me, my ex-husband burst into a stifled laugh.
It really is you. I knew it right away. Because your face hasn't changed, you've always looked older than your age. But what's with that belly? Are you pregnant? At your age? That's disgusting. He laughed at his own words.
His insensitive words left me frozen. I had no time or opportunity to retort. Instead of responding to his words, I asked a question.
Well, it's not important. Instead, did you get remarried? Which poor sap did you latch onto this time? Must be an idiot to fall for you. I bet.
白银天，你是 are skilled at burying yourself. You are my ex-husband, so you're basically saying that you're a total loser, aren't you?
I coolly responded, and my ex-husband's face turned beet red with rage.
That's why women, as they age, lose their charm and become useless. You used to be so meek and a big crybaby. Well, I hated being that person, so I changed. I'm not the same woman anymore. I won't the punching bag anymore. Damn sassy. Women should just shut up and follow men. Like that stupid woman at the reception desk, who even when I told her to let me go first, kept insisting that she was following protocols. The outlays. Of course, they would prioritize reservations. Your clinic also works on a reservation basis, doesn't it? You used to boast about the 3-month waiting period being a given, didn't you?
Back when we were married, my ex-husband was a doctor employed at a major beauty clinic. Assuming he hasn't changed jobs, he probably still works there. We had a workplace romance. He and I and the young nurse at the time started dating. He was just looking for someone easy to have fun with, and I was the only one serious about our relationship. I got married because I was expecting a baby. My ex-husband pressured me to get an abortion, but I firmly refused. My parents and in-laws supported me, and even though we rushed into marriage, I unfortunately had a miscarriage. My ex-husband hurled abuses at me as I broke down crying from the shock, calling our shotgun marriage a marital scam and the biggest mistake of his life. Our married life thereafter was a living hell. Eventually, our miserable marriage ended after about 2 years. We hired lawyers, divided our property. I received alimony, and we got divorced. I fell into depression, and it took me several years to recover. Successfully in my new workplace, I met my current husband. Life is unpredictable. I got married and now I am pregnant again. My ex-husband's clinic didn't take in drop-in patients either, if I remember correctly. I asked my ex-husband, with a touch of irony, isn't it better to let those airheaded women who use their husband's money or sugar daddy's money to get plastic surgery wait? They will appreciate it more that way. It's a business strategy, a strategy.
He responded, it's better to let those airheaded women who use their husband's money or sugar daddy's money to get plastic surgery. Wait, right? They appreciate it more that way. It's a business strategy, a strategy.
Fiction, as he said this, he was tapping his temple with his index finger with a smug smirk on his face that I found incredibly irritating.
How awful, Judy interjected. There are people who are insecure about their complexion and pay for surgery with their own savings. You're so insensitive. This is exactly why I divorced you.
At the beginning of our marriage, I was too blinded by love to see it, but I detested his condescending attitude towards his patients and how he only saw their insecurities as his source of income.
Poof, I paid you a decent amount to get rid of you, he retorted.
Judy replied, that's true. I feel so refreshed now that our ties are severed.
Hey, what's the fuss about? Dr. Run asked.
I felt relieved to have more people on my side. Meeting my ex-husband, having him say unpleasant things, and the memories of those times had filled me with unease and discomfort. I should have ended the conversation and left right away, but I suddenly remembered our initial exchange at the reception.
My ex-husband flared up in anger and said, shut up! People have circumstances. It's none of your business. He lashed out. So you're about 40, right? I don't know what's going on, but aren't you ashamed of getting pregnant at your age? It's just gross to see an old lady like you still wanting kids and doing the deed. I can't believe your husband is actually attracted to you. If he wanted kids, he'd certainly choose a younger woman. There's no guarantee an old hag like you can have a healthy kid. But for what? Is this another scam? Get married, have another miscarriage, then swindle some money out of him.
He lashed out, and now he seemed all satisfied, having yelled out words that would crush me. Just having barely managed to mutter those words, I was in shock and could feel myself losing balance.
How dare you? You can't be serious.
When I got married to him, I was overjoyed about being pregnant and just wanted a happy life, but I had a miscarriage. Now, at 40, I have even more concerns. Is the baby inside me healthy? And is it growing all right? Will I be able to deliver my baby without complications? Even if the baby had some disabilities, I would raise my kid with all my love.
What's a man who could choose someone like you can't be a decent one? I'd love to see the face of your baby's father.
Hey, stop it. How can you be so rude? That child in her belly.
I am the father of that child in her belly and Judy's husband. So I heard the harsh words he said. Don't worry, I understand that you have many concerns, but you can take a break now and leave the rest to us.
I was in shock, but my husband gently comforted me.
Is your husband a doctor here?
Yes, that's right. My husband is the heir of this hospital and works as a gastroenterologist.
Your current husband is a gastroenterologist. So you're related to this hospital?
Well, yes. This is a private hospital run by my father. Of course, we have many physicians on duty. Our family is full of doctors. My sister is a gynecologist. She is a competent female doctor. And I can trust her with Judy. Judy's currently on leave, but she's a great nurse too. I heard you're a doctor too. Earlier, a nurse circulated a questionnaire for first visit symptoms. As a fellow professional, hope you understand. Can you please leave now?
I've been waiting for 30 minutes. Shut up! I am a doctor. I deserve to receive preferential treatment.
At our hospital, all patients are treated equally. You are not here as a doctor, but as a patient, and we do not provide any preferential treatment. At our hospital, all patients are treated equally. You are not here as a doctor, but as a patient, and we do not provide any preferential treatment. Of course, we do prioritize patients in need of immediate attention, but you seem quite healthy, and your temperature is normal too.
Even though he spoke calmly, my husband did not back down. Perhaps my ex-husband was desperate to see a doctor. He started to mumble his excuses. I shook my head. No one gets used to verbal abuse. You don't talk to people like that as a joke.
Hold on. I heard this is the best cardiovascular department, and she's my ex-wife. She's used to my tone. She knows I'm joking, right, Judy?
No. No one gets used to verbal abuse. You don't talk to people like that as a joke. I've heard about you from Judy before. Your emotional abuse and cheating were the reason for your divorce, and yet you, also trying to date again as Judy's husband and a doctor, I cannot forgive you. I've been informed of what went on from my nurses, and I heard your loud voice on my way here, but don't you feel same to her abusive language that degrades women and patients and to intimidate others just because things don't go your way?
To the obstetrics and gynecology waiting room at the end of the corridor. There are not only pregnant women like me who are giving birth at an advanced age, but also many people who want a baby. Missing or receiving infertility treatment. Please go home. We have an obstetrics and gynecology department here too. It's not just about Judy, it's wrong for our other patients to have an unpleasant experience because of you. We won't examine you here.
And with that, my husband asked my ex-husband to leave.
Hey, are you discriminating against a patient?
This isn't discrimination. You're getting turned away because of your actions. Go home already. I told you before, we've evening prioritized after the beams of them. After the verbal abuse I've had to endure from you, why would I want to do anything for you? You can strut around here all you want, but no one... Just go into listen to you.
I felt a sudden sense of healing within me. Watching my pitiful ex-husband now, I started to feel glad that I cut ties with this man and divorced him. My life has completely changed being with my husband, as a current husband, who respects me and takes care of me, compared to when I was with my ex-husband, who looked down on me and made my life miserable. I don't think I'll ever see my ex-husband again. But even if I do, his harsh words won't hurt me anymore. I felt as though I finally cut ties with my painful past, which was lingering within me like a lump. Just then, from the crowd of visitors, small voice yelled, "Get out." That voice gradually grew louder, turning into a chorus of dismissal. My ex-husband, who had been swimming his eyes around and pondering his opinions, spat out his parting shot. "I'm never coming back to this awful clinic. I hope you guys go out of business soon." And after the scene, not long after, it was on the news that his beauty clinic was being sued one after another for malpractices. He'd always prioritized making money, forcing expensive treatments on patients rather than catering to their needs, and this had led to trouble. Adding to his misfortunes, I heard rumors that he'd been admitted to a hospice. Despite being a doctor himself, he was neglectful of his own health and disliked hospitals. He never went for regular checkups, indulged in unhealthy habits, and brushed off any discomfort or minor ailments with self-prescribed medicines. But his condition had deteriorated beyond hope. Bound by massive compensations and awaiting his end. What a pitiful state. Although this is none of my concern now, I can't help but think that he could have led a much better life. As for me, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She was a big baby, just over 8.8 pounds. She's extremely lively, sleeps well, drinks her milk well, and is adorable. I'm busy taking care of the baby. And I feel that it's a waste of time to worry about things that have ended. Babies are truly adorable. Meeting her is like a reward for all the difficulties I've been through. I plan to cherish every day from now on, living happily with my respectful husband and cute daughter. Kay looked happy, but it was just a fleeting moment. What happened to them later was...
I can't believe you've been thinking about me this much. Thanks for forgiving me.
Just with those words, my husband tightly grasped the hand of his affair partner right in front of me. As I watched the two of them basking in apparent joy, I secretly smirked. Enjoy your fleeting dream. Together, I can't wait to see their faces twist in shock. He was always gazing at his phone when at home, and sometimes a foolish grin would cross his face. He would hastily hide the screen when I walked behind him, and sometimes there was a scent of women's perfume.
What are you looking at? You seem happy.
I once asked him, testing the waters.
The stocks I bought recently are doing well. I'll get a cake after work next time. What do you want?
Such lies can't last for long. What confirmed the affair was a woman's earring that came out of Pat's pocket. See, when I confronted him, he immediately confessed. I will never do it again. It was just a momentary lapse of judgment. Please forgive me, Molly. You're the only one I love. At this point, 3 months had passed since I first began to suspect his infidelity. It's a momentary lapse for 3 months.
I can't believe you even after hearing that. Let's get a divorce.
I declared, but Pat clung to my leg. Night after night, he would go on about how much he regretted it, how much he thought about me, eventually shedding tears. Sims for crest of bally play upon me. I sighed and decided to forgive him. I won't let you off next time.
I gave him a stern warning and we set some ground rules. Firstly, he must contact me whenever he's gonna be late due to work. After work, he must return home directly, and if he wants to stop by somewhere, he needs my permission. It may seem controlling, but it's to prevent the same mistake from happening again. I set these conditions to alleviate at least on my anxiety.
Surgeon, if that's what it takes to be forgiven, I agree without hesitation.
Excitation about easily time. I was hoping that with this Pat would reform and we could eventually become a loving couple again. After all, he was the person I decided to spend my life with at one point. Although the wounds from his betrayal hadn't fully healed, I held on to hope for the future and decided to continue my relationship with Pat. However, even if he says such apologies, he's still a man who was intimate with another woman behind my back. Thinking about it just filled me with disgust. For a while, I decided to sleep in a separate bedroom from Pat. Half a year has passed since Pat's infidelity was discovered. He was diligently following the agreed conditions, but lately, it seems like Pat is taking the agreement lightly. Why didn't you let me? What? Oh, you'd be late? We agreed you would tell me when you'd be late, remember? He questioned him when he arrived home at dawn. Pat let out an exaggerated sigh and retorted, "Do you really expect me to inform you every single time? Sometimes the conversation gets interesting, and before I know it, time has flown."
Sometimes a conversation gets interesting, and before I know it, time has flown. How much control over me do you need? We're, a couple, shouldn't you trust me a bit more?
Honestly, who does he think he is, saying something like that? He was the one who caused all of this. Have you forgotten what you did? You were the one who agreed to these conditions, weren't you? If you can't stick to them, you're breaking the rules, right? If you can't keep your promises, I'll have to reconsider our relationship.
Reconsider? What do you mean?
I mean considering separation or divorce after all. Well, I forgave you cheating. I haven't fully trusted you since. So, if you betray my trust again, I'll consider separation or divorce.
At that, Pat clung to my leg just like the first time, apologizing. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll keep you informed. I can't live without you, Molly. Please don't say such things.
Surreal. If that's what you think, prove it with your actions.
I replied coldly and headed to my bedroom. Since then, Pat has been diligent about keeping me informed. While he often comes home late, it seems he has made a good impression on his clients and gets invited to their drinking parties quite often.
I have another drinking party today. We're close to sealing a deal. You go ahead and sleep.
Oh, reading the message from Pat, I let out a sigh.
Maybe I should take a detour on my way home and check out some new cosmetics. It could be a good diversion. It had been a while, but I decided to go to the department store after work. On my way to the department store, I happened to spot Pat. He was walking arm in arm with a woman, looking quite comfortable. That woman, there's no mistaking it. She was the woman Pat cheated on me with. But when I confronted him about his affair 6 months ago, I had him delete all her photos. And there she was, standing next to Pat. He'd been talking about his clients and contracts so seriously, and yet here he was, cheating again. What was all that effort for? If he likes other women so much, he might as well just go be with them. My emotions were all mixed up, my body shaking uncontrollably. I need evidence. Next thing I knew, I was taking pictures of my husband's infidelity with my smartphone. I lost any desire to shop and decided to go straight home. The next day, Pat came home in the morning as if nothing had happened.
I got carried away talking with clients last night. We were drinking till just now. Listening to their stories is exhausting.
I'm gonna take a shower and lie down. Happily, I see. He had been out having a good time till morning. Of course, he must be tired. From the bathroom, I could hear his cheerful humming. As I listened, my anger, which had been building up, reached its peak. Just thinking he could live as he always had, betraying me twice, I will make this utterly selfish husband understand. For a week later, as soon as he got home, Pat approached me.
Hey, are you okay today?
Absolutely not. Don't touch me. When I pushed his hand away from my waist, Pat distorted his face in a split second.
About Ferretti, do you have any idea how much I'm holding back?
He hit my cheek with the hand I had just pushed away. Unbelievable, he was not only cheating but also getting violent. I shouldn't have forgiven him back then. Overwhelmed with regret, I felt tears welling up in my eyes. But now is not the time to cry. Vacation in my pocket, a voice recorder that would serve as evidence was running.
You're not holding back at all. If you want to do it so badly, why don't you do as much as you want of him, mistress?
So when I shouted like that, Pat's eyes widened in surprise.
You think I haven't noticed? I know everything.
The what? What are you talking about?
Cully, your favorite aunt should be arriving soon.
At the same time, the house's doorbell rang. Pat's face turned pale at the sudden appearance of his mistress. In fact, I had been in contact with Anna during the week.
The moment she learned I was Pat's wife, she grimaced as if annoyed, but she immediately smiled when I said, I'm going to divorce him.
I thought you would hold on longer, but you're surprisingly easygoing, huh? Let's sit down and talk. The three of us.
That's how it happened, and I had told Anna to come here this time today.
As soon as Anna appeared, she said, we can finally be together, and quickly wrapped her arm around Pat's waist.
Nay.
It's okay, your wife knows already. And we've already agreed, so it's fine.
Everything is said.
That's right.
I interrupted the two's conversation.
She does 9J the such. I can't be with you anymore, and I'm the one that supports you. Very unlucky you.
He had a complex look on his face and was alternating his glances between me and Anna as he said, Bam, but are you sure? I sure? You?
It's not about what's good and not this is the best way for everyone to be happy.
Pat seemed to be hesitating for a while at my words, but he seemed to have made up his mind as he nodded strongly.
To yourself, you were thinking about me all this time. Thank you, Molly. I'll live with Anna. I'll live with Anna. Thank you for understanding.
Whether he misunderstood something, he took Anna's hand and squeezed it strongly. And the two of them were so engrossed in their own world, it was as if they had forgotten I was there. Looking at their happy faces, I felt contempt anew. But you know their smiles will distort soon. Thinking about it, I couldn't help but grin. It's a shame that I won't be able to see what happens to these two from now on. I should plant a camera. Well, I do have a voice recorder to record their conversations. I handed Pat the divorce papers, made him sign and put a seal on it, and packed up my small items.
The movers will come for the rest of the stuff tomorrow, so see ya.
With that, I said goodbye to the house I had lived in for 4 years. It was such an anticlimactic ending. 2 weeks later, a call came in. It was Pat. The time had finally come. I picked up the phone with a grin.
Kano.
Hello, Molly. A person claiming to be a lawyer just came by. What's going on? He said, you were forgiving me, right? I didn't hear anything about alimony.
That's right. Right after divorcing Pat, I had visited a law firm. I took pictures of the affair. I had been recording when I called Anna to the house. And of course, the moment Pat laid his hand, he was also recorded. There is plenty of evidence, so I was able to get a notarized statement immediately.
Still, I felt uneasy with notarized statements, so I asked the lawyer to visit him directly.
I already received a report from the lawyer, so I was eagerly waiting for a call from Pat.
I can't afford to pay alimony. This is out of the blue.
I could tell how flustered he was, even over the phone, but I calmly replied,
Gersh said I would forgive you, did I? It's pretty obvious you'd be asked to pay alimony after having an affair. Don't you think? Well, she raised a hand to me.
Wait a minute. Yes, I shouldn't have hit you in the heat of the moment. But things were settled between you and Anna, right? Isn't that why you called Anna to the house?
Pat began to talk rapidly. I watched him, ridiculous as he was, and told him with a triumphant tone.
I continue to how dare you cheat on me behind my back and still think you can walk away unscathed. Do you think things are settled between Ed and me? How dare you cheat on me behind my back and still think you can walk away unscathed? Do you think things are settled between Anna and me? Here's what gave you that impression. How you stop conveniently interpreting things in your favor.
Let's talk about this, Mai.
When you're 7, I forgave you once for infidelity, but there won't be a second time.
Listen, I was certain that even he, in his foolishness, would understand the gravity of the situation now.
But contrary to my expectations, Pat exploded. You've got to be kidding me. If I knew it would come to this, I would have never chosen Ella. You deceived me.
How many times does this man need to disappoint me before he's satisfied? Atren, as I stood in disbelief, unable to respond, I heard Anna's voice coming from the other end of the phone.
What do you mean by that? Didn't you want to be with me? You told me I can't be with you because my wife won't divorce me. You deceived me too.
Apparently, things were getting heated on the other end of the line. It's a shame I couldn't witness it in person.
I don't have the money to pay compensation. You should pay it.
I don't have that kind of money either. Pay your own share.
You're the reason we're in this mess. You should apologize.
No, he should apologize.
That argument continued like this until Pat finally shouted at Anna.
Oh, just shut up right now. I'm talking to Molly. I break up with Anna, but start over, Molly. I realized it's you whom I truly love. I can't live without you, Molly. Drew, Molly, I made a mistake. Please forgive me. Let's start over.
It's the nerve of him to say something so self-serving. I can't believe I wasted 6 months of my life showing leniency to such a fool. But with all the volume I could muster, I yelled at Pat.
Isn't it, if listen, if your apology solved everything, we wouldn't need lawyers. Start over with you. The very thought makes me want to vomit. It's like, eventually break up with her not as irrelevant to me. I don't have the slightest intention of getting back together with you. And I absolutely will not cancel the compensation claim. Don't you dare contact me ever again.
Hey, please, Molly.
He kept calling out my name, but I simply hung up the phone. They both insisted that they were the victims and were only telling lies to protect themselves, leaving the police at a loss. In the end, they paid me the compensation, but it seems they're both trying to get the money back from each other, even going as far as filing lawsuits against one another. A man who cheats on his wife without a second thought, and a woman who willingly gets involved. 6 with a married man. Such a situation seems to have a fitting end. As for me, I took this opportunity to quit my job and move to a quieter place in the Vermont countryside, which I have been for a while. I think I'll take it easy away from the hustle and bustle of the city for a while.